Thank you. All right, so this is a story about when I was going into first grade. Do you guys, who remembers going into first grade? Exactly a year ago? Oh. You're going into third. You're going into second. So were you, but first grade is a big deal though, right? That's a bigger deal than second, right? Because it's the first time you go into, it's not? Kindergarten is a big deal. School. TK and preschool and all that other stuff is also a big deal. Well, for me, it was going to a new school and a whole new building, and I didn't have my best friend with me. So for me, going into first grade was a big deal. So, were any of you scared going into first grade? Nope. You were? No. No. No one. Afraid. You were never afraid. Was anyone out there afraid going into first grade? There were a lot of. Okay, I was. Sort of? Okay, thank you, Izzy. That's, it makes me feel better that I was afraid. So. Oh. Okay, you're worried. So, thank you. Milo's a little afraid of second grade. But. You have to be a reading buddy to a kindergartner. You hate little kids. Thankfully, I don't hate little kids. But, so when I was going into first grade, so I had the name that I use now. I was Hanju. So I have actually two names. Hanju is my Korean name, and my English name is John. So, do any of you know someone else named John? Yeah. Yeah. A very annoying boy in your class. Do any of you know another Hanju? Nope.
But I guess it will be another annoying boy in my class.
So, when I started in first grade, I was using the name Hanju because that's the name that I used with my family. But I also had my English name John. But after a little bit, I came home from school, and I told my parents I didn't want to be called Hanju anymore, because what do you think? And I was really upset. Have any of you been teased over things when you went into first grade? Oh, yeah. Wearing dresses. Yeah. You can get made fun of, and so some people were made fun of me for my name. And I don't even remember that much about it, but I knew that I felt really bad, and I know that I told my parents that I didn't want to be called Hanju anymore because it was too difficult, and people didn't know what it meant. They said it wrong, and they made fun of me. Hanju. I think it's a good name.
What did they call you?
I don't actually remember that. My best friend from preschool, who was Eric Thompson, he would call me Han for short, but he liked that. But I didn't have any good friends when I went into first grade. I did, yeah, I liked it. But Han is you can call me Han for short.
I like your name.
Yeah. So what I wanted to tell you is that making fun of people for their names is one of the ways that we make people unwelcome. And there are a lot of ways that we can make people for the clothes that they wear. Sometimes kids will make fun of people, and so if they look different, if they have a different kind of name. So I want you to remember, especially even if you're welcoming to them, if you see someone else being unwelcoming to a kid for how they're dressed or how they look, then you can try to be a little extra welcoming for them, so that everyone can feel comfortable being different, because we all have a lot of differences. All right? Okay, so now you're going to go off to your religious education classes.
Will you enter into a spirit of prayer with me? Spirit of life, source of transformation, presence that moves through all things. We gather in the flow of this sacred moment, alive with the possibility within us, among us, around us, tuned to the rhythms of emergence, the rhythms of the stars. Let us begin by honoring something vast within us, something ancient that we are all becoming. No, we are not separate from this earth or from each other or from the movements that pulse with liberation. We are interwoven with the web of life, interdependent, complex, and holy. Teach us to trust in the small. Let us remember, as Adrienne Maree Brown says, that we practice at the small scale. The small scale sets the patterns for the whole. A world where justice is embodied, where love is not just a feeling, but a practice, where no one is disposable. When the future feels uncertain, remind us that change is not linear, that transformation comes quietly, in the compost, in the chaos, in the unexpected spirals of growth and love. Help us, O Spirit of life, to release our grip on control and instead root ourselves in relationships. Relationships that can hold us as we stretch and shift. May we be like nature, adaptable, interwoven, responsive, and resilient. May we be like the mushrooms, with the mycelium beneath the surface of the soil, connecting each other through invisible and powerful ways. Connecting with each other across life and boundaries and time itself. Let us move toward freedom with intention and humility. Let us slow down. Let us slow down to listen, to feel, to be transformed by what we learn. Let us follow the wisdom of our bodies, of this earth, of the ancestors and of the children. Spirit of emergence. May we not wait for the perfect moment to act. May we know that the revolution is not ahead of us, it's already here. It's how we treat each other. It's how we grieve. It's how we show up. It's how we love. And may we never forget that what we are building is not a single answer, but a living system. A system full of contradiction, of beauty, of struggle, and of abundant life. In this spirit, we commit ourselves again and again to the highest principles of our faith, to the work of collective justice and liberation. Amen. Ashe. Kapalaran. Blessed be.
At the start of this year, I was teaching a bunch of 7th graders at Cap Excellencia down in Redwood City, and I was struck at how unwoke a lot of the students were, despite being predominantly black and Latino, and lower middle class in a very heavily blue region, right? They had a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them had a really heavy cynicism, right? Things that they saw as woke, they would came across to them as condescending or elitist. And I'd seen similar up close when my ex's, many years ago, when my ex's son came out as a Trump supporter in middle school about, 10 years ago, much to the horror of his liberal Mexican-American mother. It was a really explosive conflict. And on top of that, for me, has been shifts in my father, who's Korean, since my mother's passing 8 months ago. He has come out to me and my sisters as a Trump supporter, defending Trump to me, and that's definitely put a clash into my family. We're having a family vacation in about a week, where I'm not looking forward to. I'm looking forward to, and then we'll see my sisters and my grandchildren. But there is a certain dread at the political conflict that will come out, and it makes me consider about where my values of diversity and pluralism really come from, and especially how I reach out to others to spread those values. I carry many identities as biracial. We had a multiracial caucus yesterday, and as part of Drum, as Korean American, which I do, as upper middle class, and what those mean to me are personal, and certainly part of my Korean identity is tied up with my father, and it gives a sort of gut, deep struggle with my identity there. And pluralism is really something that everyone struggles with, if we're being honest, because we all have our biases. I've often mentioned that I've struggled with Japanese culture because of its imperial history in Korea. And for all the conflict that I have with my father, I know that he had a very difficult time growing up. He was born in what's now North Korea, and he grew up under Japanese occupation rule. And when he went to elementary school, he wasn't just mocked for his name; he was mocked for his language. He would all of the children there were not allowed to speak Korean at school. They could only speak Japanese, and they could be beaten if they were caught speaking Korean in Korea in school. And that colors a lot of how I see Japanese media and stories because of that history. But I also know that my father's original faith that he got from his father was a non-church movement called Mugyuhe, which was founded in Japan as a Christian anti-war movement that resisted the Japanese imperial war machine. And it was led by a Japanese Christian activist, Uchimura Kanzo, who was a graduate of Amherst College. So there's complicated history. Reality is complicated, and none of us can really grasp it as a whole, and everyone has different perspectives. And so even when I disagree with someone, I know that there is a lot behind my view. And when I think of that, when I disagree with my father, which I do, I know that there is a lot behind him that I will not understand. And so with being open-minded, we like to pride ourselves here as Unitarian Universalists. We are so open-minded, and it's not simple, because some points of view are still just wrong. We can say that reality is complicated, but that's no excuse to stand back and let injustice happen. And there's a tension between being open-minded and being judgmental, but it's possible, I believe, fully to be both. One can stand up strongly for the values that one believes in, but without being blind to others' points of view, and being willing to respect others and treat them with dignity even as we oppose them. And I think that's one of the keys to dealing with these young people or others or parents who might scoff at wokeness in the country, and maybe some of our UU ways of doing things or our Drum ways of doing things. When I was teaching at KIPP, I tried my best to listen sincerely to my students and be willing to learn from them as well as teach them. And even when doing so, though, I can listen and still be forthright and clear in my values. So I could represent, and part of my values is being respectful to them. So when Kevin suggested the saying of all of us need all of us to make it, I hear that, and I hear that as a community, we can widen our community. These people are not unreachable. Maybe my father is, I don't know. Um, but, but we can widen our community. We can be a big tent without compromising our values. If we step up and we be leaders and role models to show our values and not just speak or shame others for how they are. So we live our values, and that's how we can reach out to people, including open-mindedness, but also including justice. So, thank you.
So, emergent strategy from Adrienne Maree Brown emphasizes the power of relationships. Adrienne says, the strength of our movement is the strength of our relationships. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable and more empathetic. The focus on connection makes us all feel valued and integral to this strategy. What would it look like if we took the principles of emergent strategy into the UU Fellowship of Redwood City, into diverse, revolutionary, Unitarian, Universalist, multicultural ministries? Because relationships really are the core of what we do in church, isn't it? Relationships, are really where it all comes from. And we're so excited to be here with Drum, California for our 10th quarterly retreat since spring of 2023. So this is our 10th quarterly retreat for Black, Indigenous, people of color UUs from across the state of California. So folks in the room drove up from Southern California, from all over, from Davis. We have Unitarian Universalists of color from all over the state here today, and it's just such a joy to be together during this time. During this time, yes. Especially now. Now, during this time of heightened fascism, heightened racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, ableism, we are in a poly-crisis. And when we gather as people of color, that is resistance. When we gather as people of color together, that is telling white supremacy culture we exist. We are here to organize and be for each other in the ways that we need. Yesterday, as Hanju mentioned, we had an amazing all-day retreat at the UU Society of San Francisco. We were there, we had caucus sessions, we had worship. We were really trying to find this conversation in the room. Adrienne Maree Brown says that there is a conversation in the room that only these people can have. Find it. So what is that conversation that only these people in the room can have? That is what emergence is. Emergence is the way that complex systems and patterns arise out of a multiplicity of small, simple, everyday interactions. Emergence emphasizes critical connections, authentic relationships with each other, listening to your own body and your own mind. In emergence, the whole of the mirror of the parts is a fractal. The health of the cell is the health of the species and the planet. If we can understand anti-racism here, in this fellowship, in this community, then maybe we can have an impact on this larger world that we're living in. If what we do is done well, if we live our values of justice, interdependence, transformation, generosity, and love, if we actually live these values out loud, then we'll know in our bones that all of us need all of us together. Now, pluralism, as stated in our UU values, says that we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. And our values tell us that we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Love, curiosity, and respect. That's the essence of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. I really was moved to tears from Hanju's story this morning. my own last name, Mann, used to be Manliguez. Manliguez. When I was growing up in first and second grade, my parents, I just remember they would tell me these stories. You know, all of the other kids in my class got to say their whole first name and their whole last name. And then when it came to my last name, the teacher would pause and say, Kevin M. I was Kevin M. That's who I was. When my dad became a citizen in about maybe middle school, he changed his last name and our whole family's last name. So I remember testifying in court in like 6th grade, saying that, I'll do it, we'll change it. And so I've been Kevin Mann since middle school, but that pain that we carry as people of color rooted in our names, that hit me, and I just wanted to thank you for sharing that vulnerable story with us this morning. Courageous moments like that is what it takes. It's what it takes to have collective liberation in a world that needs to see us that we're here, in a world that needs to reconnect with each other. And so we just wanted to thank so much the UU Fellowship of Redwood City, Reverend Brian, your parish minister, for this invitation to preach, Hanju for being our worship associate. The whole church at Redwood City has been amazing.